to thrive. Before we get started with anything that we do here in the Durham District School Board, it's always important to take a moment to recognize the land upon which we do our important work every day. So I have the pleasure of reading the land acknowledgement. Durham District School Board acknowledges that many Indigenous nations have long-standing relationships, both historic and modern, with the territories upon which our school board and schools are located. Today, this area is home to many Indigenous peoples from across Turtle Island. We acknowledge that the Durham region forms part of the traditional and treaty territory of the Mississaugas of Scugog Island First Nation, the Mississauga peoples, and the treaty territory of the Chippewas of Georgian Island First Nation. It's on these ancestral and treaty lands that we teach, learn, and live. Okay, so good evening, everyone. Just going to quick introduction for myself. My name is Mike Menier. I'm the assistant lead for Positive School Climates. And at this point in time, I have the pleasure of turning it over to Stephanie Pelborough, who is our mental health leader for the board.
Thanks, Mike. Welcome, everyone. We're here to talk about supporting our children to thrive. And when many of you registered, you were invited to ask a question. What is it that you're concerned about? What kind of keeps you up at night when you think about your kids? Many of you talked about social media and the pressures that kids feel nowadays as it relates to all kinds of things. Some of you talked about your concerns around the experiences of bullying. Some of you talked about, the pressures around use of substances. Some of you just talked about, help me understand kids and mental health problems. There were a lot of real concerns that many of you are sitting with and wondering about. So I want to introduce you to a resource. Some of you, as you came in, you would have seen and received a whole bunch of flyers or information sheets. School Mental Health Ontario is an organization that supports school boards across the province with resources. They help us as school professionals think about how to do well-being every day in classrooms, and they provide you some resources. This is called By Your Side, and it's a resource hub. And we've given you a bunch of resources from the resource hub. But I wanted to share a little bit more about what that hub has. So you'll see these are the categories of the resources in that hub. Everything from understanding mental health at school, substance use, how you can support your kids at home, stress, and navigating digital technology. It really is a wealth of resource. And so for our online families, you can access that and the resources that the folks here in person have received by scanning this QR code. What I wanted to do is just highlight two, because these are the questions that came up frequently in your registration information. One is on helping your child manage digital technology. And it asks questions that we as parents are always asking. Like, how do I know if my child's screen time is problematic? It gives you, what should I do if I think they use it a lot? There's lots of great resources here to help you navigate that. If any of you are at a stage, I'm going to stop for a minute and talk about how that actual digital resource has been recently translated in multiple versions. And so you can read using a language that is spoken at home to help you navigate those conversations with your young person. And then for those of us who are at a different stage of life, we may have kids who are trying to navigate this surround sound of substances. And so this particular resource is an information for you to think about, what do I need to know? And again, how would I help my students? What information and support is available? And all of these are really important resources. And as we think about supporting families across the board, sometimes we say to ourselves, are these resources that families would find helpful? Is the knowledge something that you would want to know? Like, do you want to know about technology use? Do you want to know about, what do I need to know about cannabis use? And if you did know this information, do you think it would situate you in a way that you can talk to your kids maybe about these things that are sometimes tricky to navigate? And if you knew more, do you think you would be able to respond should you feel there's a concern? And we actually kind of want you to answer that for us, because your answers might guide us in thinking about what supports, what information, what sessions similar to this can we offer you. So I'm wondering if I can just take a minute of your time and ask you to answer those questions for us. Do you think resources around helping your child manage digital technology would be helpful? Do you think a guide on knowing what you need to know about cannabis use would be helpful for you? So can I invite you just to take a minute? There's only 3 questions. It's either yes or no, it's helpful, or it's not helpful. And that information is helpful for us as we think about how to support you as parents in conversations that are meaningful and helpful for you. So just give you a few more minutes just to grab that QR code, our online families to grab that QR code, and you'll have that up. You can answer the questions. And then I'm going to hand it back to Mike Menier, who's going to introduce our speaker. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Stephanie. And just a couple things. First of all, welcome to the Durham District School Board Education Center. For those of you who may not hear before, it's your first time, just want to give you a couple of housekeeping items. So first of all, to my right, if you go out there, the male washrooms are out there, in addition to an all-gender washroom as well. And if you head out this way to my left, out there is the female washrooms. For emergency evacuation, of course, which we never hope to have to do, but nonetheless it's important to have a plan. In case of emergency, we need to evacuate the building. And if we have to do that, our designated area is straight out that way towards the west doors we will gather. So now let's get to the heart of the evening here. And first of all, I also meant to, I'm not sure which camera to look at, but I want to welcome those online. We have a number of individuals who are joining us online tonight as well. So welcome to you as well. So it is my pleasure to be able to introduce our speaker for the evening. Dr. Jean Clinton is a clinical professor in the Department of Psychiatry and Behavioral Neurosciences at McMaster University in the Division of Child Psychiatry. From 2014 to 2018, she served as an education advisor to the Premier of Ontario and the Minister of Education. For over 35 years, Dr. Clinton has been a consultant to children and youth mental health programs, child welfare, and primary care. She has a keen interest in brain development and the crucial role that relationships, belonging, and connectedness play. Dr. Clinton believes in a compassionate, competency-based learning system that fosters deep learning and relational focus. She advocates for an education that enriches both learning and life, leading to a better, sustainable world. And Dr. Clinton has also authored her first book, Love Builds Brains. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Jean Clinton.
Thank you very much, Mike. It's a pleasure to be here, and it'll be an even greater pleasure once my everything is set up. Oh, you did it. The wonderful Ali. Okay. All right. So, as you heard, I'm an infant, child, and adolescent psychiatrist, but I spend a lot of my time as a knowledge translator, taking the science of brain development, for example, and bringing it in a way that makes it accessible. So I think that the idea of empowering families, understanding what are the things that we know that help to have kids grow up and thrive? I want to start, as I always do, acknowledging how much I have learned and how much we need to learn from the indigenous people. The idea of considering the next 7 generations really is asking us to, as we're making decisions, 7 generations from now, will those decisions be sustainable? Are we thinking of the children now? Well, we just had a UNICEF report that has come out, and unfortunately, Canada, a great country, well off, but our kids are not doing very well. So I'm so delighted that you are here tonight, because what's going to make a difference in our children's lives is not more money. Well, that'll help, I should say, but the relationships that they have with you, the connections that they have with you. That is what is going to get our Canadian children back on the UNICEF report higher. So I think of some guiding principles when I'm thinking about the development of the child. And so one of those principles is that we need to be thinking about everything about the child, that not just the reading and writing, the cognitive areas of the brain should we be thinking about, but in fact thinking about the physical, the emotional, the social, the spiritual growth of the child. We have an education system. I have to watch out because I'm in an education building, but it's a lot of it has to do with kind of organizing, ranking, putting kids in spots, and making sure that the kids comply, do what they're asked to do. So it's a compliance and control basis, but I see here in this board a real move to shift that kind of thinking, involving the community in a significant way and igniting learning. So when we think about that, it's going to be really important that there is a focus on belonging. When belonging's not just a nice thing to have, to feel you belong. It is a basic human need that if it's not met, then kids have lots of difficulty. You know, one of the worst things as a child psychiatrist, one of the worst things that kids tell me is in their life is to be ignored, not to be seen. So creating that sense of belonging for all kids is so important. And thinking about relationships as central. So one of the things that I think a lot about is what is it that we hope and long for our students? You know, I've done some work in California and they have a portrait of the graduate. You know, what are the things that they want to have? Well, the First Nations has a mental wellness framework saying that to be well is to be able to have a sense of purpose, to know what it's about, what you're doing in education. For the kids, when they've been surveyed, the young people, very few of them have a sense of purpose. They've gone to school, they've done the tests, they've tried hard to get the marks, they didn't learn things that they need in real life, and nobody asks them about a sense of purpose. So a sense of purpose, having hope for the future. Boy, oh boy, do we ever need that now. That sense of belonging again. And having a sense of meaning and daily life. So this is the framework for a good life. This is a framework for well-being. Because what is well-being? It's not just the absence of illness, it is flourishing and thriving, being good in society and good for society, as Michael Fullan says. So here's a challenge. When you think about what the purpose of education, there are two big kind of camps. One is thinking about filling the bucket, covering the curriculum, adult-driven, knowing what kids need to know. I call it stuffing the duck, actually, filling the bucket. You know, force-feeding kids with curriculum. Great, some absolutely fabulous things happening in education. For sure, the way it's set up now. But think about what it would be like if education was about igniting the flame of lifelong learning. And again, I visit many boards, and your strategic plan in your board is absolutely in line with where people are saying we need to be going. Why is it so important? Why is it so important to me as a child psychiatrist? It has to do with the brain. What we know about the brain is that it's moldable, it's changeable in the inside. It's plastic, it's called neuroplasticity I'm going to be talking about. And what neuroplasticity is, every experience that kids have, that we have, turns on brain cells, activates brain cells that are called neurons in our brain. We've got a lot of them. Every experience builds the brain. A baby's brain, when they're born, the brain is premature. It only weighs about 1 pound, whereas when they're 5, it weighs 3 pounds. So how does the brain move from 1 pound to 3 pounds? Well, it's all of the experiences that come in through the senses, through the relationships, through the connections. That is what builds the brain. And why is it so important? Well, one is genes are not destiny. Our genes are not our destiny. Our brain is our master organ, which gets modified by the experiences. And in fact, it reflects our environment. It reflects our environment. Neuroscience is catching up with all of this. Mary Helen Imardino-Yang, who I'm doing some work with now, says our emotions, our relationships, and our cultural experiences in the social world quite literally organize and shape the development of brain networks that allow us to learn. Culture, relationship, emotion. So then, thinking about that, it makes the job of parenting just a little bit more scary. Well, it does to me anyway. I have 5 children and 9 grandchildren so far. The oldest is 8. So I want you to picture what's going to happen when they all get together on the May long weekend at our house. So we're building their brains with the interactions, with our love. That's the biggest part. Our love is so important. Somebody just broke their heart. You can go and pick it up. So it makes you think about, well, how is my parenting style in line with what evidence says? So evidence says that when you are democratic with your kids, well, let me go back a little bit. I consider myself to be an upstreamist. My slide isn't in there. So I spent many, many years in clinical practice seeing kids, and I felt like I was in the middle of a river trying to catch one or two of the kids that were barreling by. And one of my mentors, Dr. Paul Steinauer, said, Jean, we need to be upstream. We need to see and prevent the kids from falling in the river in the first place. And so tonight, I'm going to be talking about what we need to do as upstreamists. I see public education as a big upstream move. So, back to parenting. So, lots of research done by Dr. Baumrind and then Barbara Coloroso made it quite well known that there are authoritarian parents. There's four kinds of parents. Authoritarian parents. Do it because I said so. I know best. Do it. So that is, they have focus on obedience, punishment over discipline. So that's one style of parenting. The next style in the pink box is permissive. Now, I have seen tons of families who are concerned about their kids' behavior, and when I talk to them, find out that they are very permissive. They don't set rules or expectations. When they say no, the kid bugs them long enough, can I, and they turn it to a yes. They're permissive. The consistency is not present. It's like, don't put the cat in the microwave. Okay, honey? Okay. So that's permissive. They don't enforce rules and say, ugh, kids will be kids. So not consistent. There is another family who is the uninvolved. Now, luckily, I have seen very, very few families who are uninvolved with their children. Where we want to be, where the sweet spot is to be authoritative. So authoritative is the backbone family. I'm not going to do too much of this because I've got a sore back. But you can imagine, you know, the back, you can bend forward and back. But there are limits to how far you can go. So, authoritative parenting, backbone parenting, is the one that research has shown helps kids to be more successful, to do better in school, to have more social skills, more problem-solving skills. So the message is, you as parents absolutely matter. Absolutely matter. You are building your children's brains, their hearts as well. So, what style of parenting is building what kind of brain? There's an association between parenting, there's an association between parenting and kids' behavior. Why? Because there's 86 billion neurons in the human brain, and they get connected up by the way they get used. So the neurons, the more they're activated, like a child cries and somebody says, oh, it's nothing, stop crying. That is going to build the brain. That child is going to say, my upset doesn't matter. Whereas if the child falls and hurts themselves and the adults say, "Are you okay? Do you need anything?" That is a very, very different pattern of brain activity that's going to be set up. So the more that neural systems, the more those neurons fire together, then they wire together, they get pathways. So it's kind of like a nice big meadow in the middle of a forest. And when one person walks through, there's just a little bit of a trail. But as more people see that little bit of a trail and walk through, it gets wider and wider and wider and becomes a path. Well, that's what happens in the brain. That's the using it is building it. So there's lots of science around this, but I thought I'd show you a little video. In the video, I want you to think about how many times, remember use dependent, how many times have this mum and baby interacted in a back and front, a serve and return kind of way. So let's have a watch and listen.
Usted y yo tenemos que hablar. ¿Por qué no comes la papa? Explícamelo. No, 15 meses tenés. 15 meses. No te rías. No te rías. Te cocino. No, escuchá, te hago zapallo con papa. Zapallo con papa, con pollito, todo procesado. Tiene queso mantecoso, queso cremoso, eso tiene nutrientes, vitaminas, calcio. ¿Por qué no comes? Explícame, dale. Deja de hacer caras. Escúchame. ¿Por qué no comes la papa? Tenés que comer la papa. Mira, mira, le vamos a mostrar. ¿Por qué no comes la papa vos, Angelina? Usted y yo tenemos que hablar. ¿Por qué no comes la papa?
Oh, did I press the right button? I did. Magic of technology. So lots of people talk about the early years and how in the early years the brain is being built. And it's true, there's no other time like the early years in terms of how much brain connection and growth happens. But it's not the only really important time for brain development. Adolescence is also a time of great brain growth and maturation. How do they know? How has it been that the science has changed its tune? Well, now scientists are able to have kids go in a scanner, and they have the same children over a number of years went in the scanner, and the scientists saw lots of changes of the brain. And they said, "What's this? You know, we thought it was puberty that had to do with all of the different behaviors." And then they said, if the brain is changing so much, it must have an influence on behavior. So we now talk about adolescence. Adolescence starts around 10 years of age and goes on till 25 or 26 years of age. So it is under construction. And that late adolescent period between 18 and 24 is called emerging adulthood. This is emerging adulthood. It's socially sanctioned. It's also known as finished a degree or gone to college and back living in the basement. That's emerging adulthood. But you know, one of the things to always keep in mind is that each child is an individual. Most of these children, who are very, very different, are 14 years of age. Look at the difference in them. So what worked for one child does not necessarily mean it works for another. We have, as I said, 5 children. My first child was very easy. We figured him out. He hardly ever cried. We thought we were perfect parents. Great genes, perfect parents. And then 18 months later, along came my daughter. And she was a very different kettle of fish. She was more needy. She had to be carried all the time. When she became a toddler, if it wasn't the right tightness of her rain jacket, then she would have a meltdown. She was more intense, more spirited. My older son was so easygoing. So you can imagine how adolescence was different with the two of them. Who do you think I had more battles with? Numero uno or two? Number 2, for sure. Luckily, she has turned out, she's a wonderful, wonderful mother, also of 5 children, and a family doctor, and one of the best friends. If you're her friend, one of the best, most loyal friends you could ever have. That intensity as an infant showed itself over the years with her feeling passionately about causes and about people. So parenting them was very, very different. So we need to think about the adolescent brain as under construction. So if they're under construction, we have to ask, well, okay, they're under construction, but why do they do the things that they do? Do you think this guy knows this is a dangerous thing to do? Diving off a cliff into unknown waters, does he know? Yes, he does. But he's chosen the thrill is going to be better. He doesn't worry about the danger. He wants that buzz. What else? He's been riled or pushed onto it by friends up at the top. There's much more risk-taking happens when you are with a group of friends when you're an adolescent. And so he also wants to give those tourists on that tour boat a big thrill. Do you want to know how I know all of this about this particular picture? This is number 4. This is my boy, who has taught me more about the adolescent brain than I ever wanted to know. Ever wanted to know. He is a wonderful, caring paramedic and probably still does things that I don't want to know about. So the brain is under construction. It's growing. Your relationship, your connection to your child as that your young person, as that brain is growing, is absolutely essential for them to develop empathy and caring for others. So here's a problem though. The brain develops from the back, the blue there, if you watch it, that's the brain maturing. And it matures from the back of the brain to the front of the brain. And the front of the brain, up here, it's called the prefrontal cortex, is a kind of important part of the brain to have developed. It is the organizing, the planning, the emotion regulation. Is under construction. It's the last area to develop. So some scientists say that it's like having a supercar with an accelerator but no brake. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. So the brain is changing. It's becoming more specialized. What kids are busy doing is building their brain. If they're volunteering, if they're learning as these wonderful young people who made the food that we had tonight, who are serving the food that we have tonight, that is building their brain. But there's a difference between those two areas I mentioned. The emotional area is called the limbic system, and it develops later than that thinking system. What happens is when the experiences are repeated over and over again, neuroplasticity, there is pruning and remodeling, pruning of the areas that are not getting used. There's also a key developmental difference in adolescence, and that is the dopamine. Dopamine is our reward neurotransmitter, our reward hormone. And kids have under construction dopamine system. So what they seek is novelty, risk-taking. They get, when they do something like dive off a cliff, they have heightened rewards, and so they want to do it again. Here's the problem. Smoking cigarettes and cannabis, when your brain is under construction like this, is more dangerous than it is if you started as an adult. So that's why the resources that Stephanie was telling us about are so crucial. Because as the brain is developing and kids are experimenting, we need to have the pathways of communication and relationship that we have built over the years. When I think about what happens in the teen years, I think so much about how they still love us, but they need to leave and be with their friends. They've got a drive to be with their friends. No matter what we think of their friends, they want to be with their friends. Here, though, when they are with their friends, they take more risks. It used to be when one of my oldest son's best friend, Rob, got his license first out of their group of friends. And he came up one day to pick Andrew up. And he said, my children's name and husband's name is Gibson. So he comes up to the door. And I said to him, "Oh, I see, Rob, you've got your license." And he said, "Yeah, pretty lucky, Mrs. Gibson, huh?" And I said, "Luck had better have nothing to do with you getting your license." And as Andrew was going out, I said to him, "Do not talk to Rob when he's driving. Do not turn on the radio. Do not do anything that's going to distract him from driving." So far, so good. But here's another thing. Kids will do things they know are not good for them to fit in. This social risk, that's a social risk, might matter more to adolescents than avoiding other types of risks. So, another one of my kids, I'll keep them anonymous. Grade 11. Very interesting year, grade 11. Anyway, grade 11. The principal calls me up and says, "Your son was caught smoking." And I said, "What was he doing smoking?" And the principal said, "What was he doing smoking?" Well, he was actually stepping out of the smoking circle they had to give somebody a match. But he was experimenting with smoking. He has 2 parents who are physicians. We've talked lots to him about non-smoking, the power of fitting in was more powerful than what he knew to be the right thing to do. But that was a time when we had a rupture in our relationship, right? It was, you know, he was sent home, he was suspended for 2 days. That was, you know, there's a lesson to be learned here. So it was a bit of a rupture in our relationship. But because we had a strong connection in those pathways of relationship and belonging, we were able to repair. So from mismatch to repair is absolutely possible. Now here's the thing about mismatch. Under construction, emotional part of the brain. So most adults, when they look at this picture, what they see is what? What do you see in the picture? Fear. Yeah. But kids who saw this, what they saw was, oh, she looks angry. She looks ticked off. And the scientists were really, what's this about? And what they discovered was that the teens, the adolescents, were processing those faces through their limbic system, the emotional system, that fight or flight system, not the thinking part of the brain. What does it mean? It means very often there can be a communication gap. Teens are more likely to misinterpret facial expressions of emotions. They see anger when there isn't anger. Anybody heard from their kids, why are you yelling? And you want to say, you think this is yelling? You ain't seen nothing yet. But they see anger when it isn't there. They process things in the amygdala, so they may react quickly. They may react quickly, but what's important for us as parents is that we don't meet their reaction, that we stay calm, that we are not reactive. Why is all this so important? Because of this under construction. What's under construction that is developed around 28, 25? Govern emotion, judgment, planning, organizing, problem solving, impulse inhibition. So let me tell you a story about another one of my children. It's nice having 5 kids. It means you've got lots of stories. So my kids do ski racing, or did ski racing. And we live in Hamilton. So anybody who's been to Hamilton knows that there's no mountain there. So we had to drive 2.5 hours up north or down south. And they had their race. So one time, one of my children, around 12 or 13, we arrived there and he's forgotten his ski helmet. Now you can't ski without a helmet. So I could have said, oh dear honey, I'm so sorry that you forgot your helmet. You won't be able to ski. And so that will help you remember every time to bring your helmet. I could have said that. It wouldn't have worked. He would just get mad, and I would be quite annoyed that I'm driving 2.5 hours to watch a 30-second race and drive 2.5 hours back, and I'm not going to get a chance to do it. So logical consequence wasn't our way of doing things. Because the brain is under construction, he needed some help with planning. And so I wasn't going to plan for him, I was going to help him plan. I was going to help him plan by saying, okay, what are we going to do so you don't forget anything when you go skiing? And he said, well, we could make a list. So we made a list, and every time we got in the car at 5:30 a.m., I'd say, have you got the list? Have you got everything? And then I would say, the list. And eventually he said, Mum, you don't have to ask about the list anymore, because as soon as I get off the ski hill, I just dump everything into my ski bag. It's a public health hazard, that ski bag, but at least he was doing the right thing. So here's another thing. What does the brain pay attention to? As we go talking to our kids, how do we get their attention? How do we get them to focus and think about what's meaningful to you? Well, one is validating their feelings, but two is talking to them, knowing about things. So if the information has meaning, if you're going to have a conversation with your child about cannabis, you can't start off with the wrong information. It's so important. It's so important that you know the facts. Because when there is that meaning, kids pay more attention. If the information causes that emotional response, it sticks. So here's the dilemma in the adolescent brain. It's do it now or think about it. Now, one other thing I'll layer on, and that is about sleep. Do any of you have teenagers who stay up very late at night? Well, they're not doing it. They're not pushing sleep back. What we know is that kids' sleep thirst, when they feel the need to go to sleep, is changed in adolescence. It's later. But here's the thing. They need more sleep than we do. They need 9 hours of sleep. So here we've got this adolescent brain under construction, chronic sleep deprivation. And now we kick in having an iPhone and social media, and having an iPhone in the bedroom and staying on that phone into the little small hours, or the wee small hours, as we say. Why? Because they're afraid of missing something. The fear of not having it. So, you know, some of the things that people talk about is have conversation with your kids about, we mentioned cannabis, about their iPhones and social media. And one of the things that families have come up with is do not have the phone in the bedroom. After, say, 10 o'clock, it gets plugged in elsewhere. The other thing that's so helpful is for groups of families to all say together, let's put a stop on cell phone use at 10 p.m. so they're not the only ones who are doing it. Now, it's a big problem, to be honest, because sleep deprivation interferes with your learning. I don't know if they have it here in Durham, but some school boards are making it a later start time for schools. But you know this, I mentioned the sleep deprivation and the social media. Less than 7 hours a day. Remember I said they need 9 hours a day? It has crept up and up and up. The kids who are not getting enough sleep. And you know, one of the things is not getting enough sleep is a major stress on the brain. And when the brain is being overly stressed, bombarded with stress, with things that are novel, things that are a threat to the ego, when that is happening, the thinking part of the brain, remember I said the prefrontal cortex, gets shut down, and that amygdala, that fight or flight, that limbic system gets turned on. What does it mean? When that limbic system, that emotional system is turned on, so when kids are having a really, really hard time, it's not the time to give them a lecture. It's the time to say, I can see you're really upset. If I can help you, get calm, tell me what to do, but I'm here for you. I'm here for you. That message calms that amygdala so that they can then calm themselves. That's called co-regulation. So we talked about different styles of parenting, but I want to also plant another seed. There's a great book called The Carpenter or the Gardener, and the Gardener, by Alison Gopnik. And one of the theories that she has is, as a parent, do you have an idea of how you want your kid to turn out? And you've got all of the strategies in place to have them turn out to be the perfect kid that you want. That's kind of like carpentry. Or are you a gardener? So a gardener makes sure that there's nutrients, makes sure that the soil is rich, but really is looking at, what do I need to do to create the conditions for my child or children to thrive and flourish? What are the conditions around them that will make a difference? So think to yourself, are you a carpenter or are you a gardener? Or are you a bit of a combination? So my husband and I, we tried very, very much to be gardeners. But periodically, when something came up, well, I was a very good carpenter, I'll tell you, with the hammer. No, hammer of the word. I'll tell you this story. Then you won't listen to me anymore. So one day, I was angry with my son. One of my sons, the one that taught me more than I didn't want to know. So I'm really angry at him, and I am yelling at him. I can't even remember what it was. You'd think I would. I can't remember what it was. And he comes up to me and he says, Mum, you're a child psychiatrist. You know this doesn't work, right? So I was carpenter, he was gardener. What's the big, big message here? Relationship, relationship, relationship. Relationships are what build our brain. They're an active ingredient of our brain development. And why is it so important? It's because we are a social species. We need each other to survive. And the brain is a social organ wired to connect. It needs that connection. So, you know, it's interesting that Stephanie and I had the same kind of idea. But let me say before I go on to that, one of the mantras I have is to connect before you correct. To acknowledge and affirm the feelings, the experience that your child is going through before you correct the child. Because then they know that they are seen. They know that they are safe. Creating safety in the home in all ways is a top priority. So, like Stephanie, I think that the resource by your side, which is available all online, as Stephanie said, is a phenomenal, phenomenal resource to be used. What comes through it over and over again is the quality of your relationship with your kids when you want to talk about cannabis, when you want to talk about nicotine and vaping. Listening to your child, giving them care. There's a lovely link in the by your side, which is a pamphlet written by kids to tell parents how to be helpful. And I love this. This listen with care. C for curiosity. Stay curious when talking with us. Stay curious. The words "I wonder" are amazing conversation starters. Connection takes work, and approaching our words and ideas with curiosity instead of criticism helps us feel like you genuinely want to learn about us. So C is for curiosity. A is for having an open mind. Make, for example, screen time conversations a space where we can share our thoughts without fear of being shut down. Hugely important. This doesn't mean that you always agree with us, but putting aside your initial judgments and assumptions creates room for a comfortable conversation. These are the words of kids. These are the words of kids. This is what these young people were saying. So C for curiosity, A for an open mind, R is for respect. Even though we are younger than you, our experiences are no less important. Mutual respect allows for open discussions. Appreciate that we have insights and creative ideas that you may not have considered. When I hear this, I see respect has been built, and they want to have respect built. Empathy. Take the time to step into our shoes and look at the issues of screens as an example from our perspective. Your compassion will build trust and promote healthy interactions. So listen with care, respond with love. L is for lots of questions. Ask thoughtful, gentle questions with the goal of understanding where we're coming from. They're asking to be seen as competent and capable. Optimism. Keep a positive attitude and express confidence in us whenever possible. Remember that all conversations, difficult ones included, are part of the continuous process towards healthier screen use, as well as stronger parent-child bonds. So V, I'm just watching the time here, so I want to finish up. V is for validation, and E is for engagement. So this brain, this social organ, connecting before correcting. How are we going to do it? First of all, we have to put our own mask on first. We have to. We have to take care of ourselves. You know, it may well be, I can't remember, that at that time when I was yelling so much at my son was a time when I had depression and I wasn't taking care of myself. So put on your own mask first. Watch what you're modeling. Be aware of what you're modeling. How many of you have seen scenes like this when you go out to restaurants? So, you know, think about having a conversation that you are together on and say, no phones at the table. When we have meals, we want to be together. Now that also means televisions off, all screens, so that you can start the dialogue. What is known is the more, so the research was that children who had fewer family meals, so the kids who had fewer family meals were into drugs, alcohol, other things much sooner. In fact, the research was so strong that the president, W. Bush, made a family dinner day. One day when families have dinner. Okay, hello, that's a beginning idea, not a finished idea. Lend them your calm. Now to do that, you have to know where your own calm is. So looking for yourself. And then ask some of these questions. What do you need right now? What's most important? What are you hoping for? What's going well? What helped you the most today? Can you hear that you have to have an attitude of respect to be asking these questions? Compassionate coaching questions. Why is it all so important? Because as Maya Angelou says, what will the children remember? I've learned that people will forget what you said. People will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. So for flourishing, you absolutely need laughter. You need to find the joy in parenting and being with young people. And then the other thing is being grateful. All kinds of neuroscience about gratitude, but it changes your brain. Just once, waking up in the morning, before your feet hit the ground, you think of 3 things that you're grateful for. 3 things. So I kind of would say for this morning, for today, I'm grateful for the robins that woke me up this morning with their beautiful song. I wish it hadn't been 5 a.m., but I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for my family and the love that surrounds all of us. And I'm also truly, really grateful for you for coming out tonight and for giving me such attention and respect. I can feel it. So I thank you. We're going to have some questions, but right now, I'm finished. So you can start clapping. Okay, all right. Here they come.
Here we come, yes. So, first of all, but before we get a chance to answer any questions, we got a little bit of fun coming up too. And I kind of got my screen time going right now, but I swear it was for a good purpose at the moment. You know what, first of all, thank you for coming tonight. I'm an educator, but primarily I'm a parent. And I tell you, I wish I would have, heard all this, right, before I had my first little one. But taking away from what you said tonight, huge things. Building connections with our kids, and then knowing, what are the pathways they're building in their brain. That's hugely powerful. Every child is an individual, so we have 3 kids. They're all going to be different. You can't assume they're going to be all like the same one, and the same thing doesn't work. Hugely powerful. Connect before you correct. And sometimes that's hard, right? We want to jump in there and we want to fix it, and sometimes we just got to give them a chance to calm down, get their bearings, and then come in. The importance of relationships, listen with care, responding with love. And one thing that's important too as well, which is not to forget to take care of yourself. Because again, we're not good to anybody if we're not in our best place. So we got to be there for our kids. So I want to thank you so much tonight. It was a pleasure once again having you here. So thank you, Dr. Clinton.
Okay, you're very welcome.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thank you very much. Loved it. All right. I'm gonna turn
We
it
just
over
wanted to
for
see
one
if there was
second.
any questions from parents here that they might have for Dr. Clinton.
One comment and one question. So, I want to say thank you, and this is really, the good insight you held today. And my comment is that, for example, whenever we start business or whenever we start any job, we do take some, training, some certifications, and we, for example, if we are starting a business, so we just look around and find place and, hire different things and different people. But unfortunately, when we become parent, we don't have any training, any, I would say this is very unfortunate. And my question to you, in this era, a mother and father both are working here in Canadian environment. So at the end of the day, both parents are drained with the energy, they don't have stamina, they don't have energy or to listen or to talk or to truly connect with their children. So my question to you, if you guide little bit about at the end of the day, how can parents rejuvenate themselves or restore their energy to truly connect with their children? Thank you.
Question and very, very real, huh? Very, very real. So what I would think about is I'd be curious about if you had 15 minutes on your own, wherever you need to have that quiet space to do exactly what you said, to recharge, so that you can breathe. Hugely important. Mindfulness, or just breathing and being still and in the moment, and then go out to the melee. The kids need to know that you're doing, and you as a couple and you as a family need to know, relationship is first. And right now, I'm so drained, I need to recharge. So I will see you soon, but give me the space just now. So that's something I'd be curious about, working, getting your recharge, that lend them your calm by finding your own calm first, giving yourself permission to do that, and the supper can wait. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Good evening. Thank you so much for all the insight. My question was with regards to your experience with your children. The way you describe them, they sound very unique individuals from each other, much like my own. So my question is, when you're dealing with one child, you're dealing it according to how they are, and then your parenting is a little bit different for your second child, and so on and so forth. What I'm finding challenging is that they are challenging me as to why my parenting is different.
Okay.
Because their response is different. That's why my parenting is different. But they don't like that. So how do you deal with that?
Yes, okay, fantastic, and very real again. Thank you for the question. So one of the things is you need to have, or we needed to have, some baseline, foundational things. Be kind was one of our big family things. Always be kind. We needed to be firm, but we needed to be fair. And fair doesn't mean equal. It means what you're describing, for each according to their need. But you don't change those basic firm rules. You don't feel like a pushover to the others, because you're hearing it. The kids are picking it up. So how then am I talking about you deal with them differently? You've got the foundational things that you won't change, and then you have conversations with them to see how you can fit their temperament and your environment together. There's a terrific book called Raising Your Spirited Child that would be really helpful. So you make differences in the way that you connect, but not in the running of the house. You've got those firm blocks. Thank you. Other questions or comments?
Okay. Thank you. Such a privilege to listen to your wise advice. What I appreciate, and I'm not sure others who are, we're all parents here, is to hear your practice as a parent. And even hearing how you may have yelled at your child, because it kind of, I don't know, I took a bit of deep breath going, okay, child psychiatrist doesn't have to be perfect.
Yeah.
You know, what am I holding myself to? So
Yeah, I yelled more than once.
Oh, my goodness. So this is the exciting part 2, because that was super exciting, is our raffle as a way to say thank you for spending your night with us. We so appreciate people coming out. Oh my goodness, I'm sorry that you missed the park night, because it's like 27 degrees in full sun, but we're so thankful that you chose to be here. And hopefully you're leaving different, knowing something, or having your sense of yourself as a parent affirmed because you chose to spend some time here with us. So we have a raffle. We are actually giving out your book. Yes, and some folks are going to walk away with a book and a Jenga game. Some folks are going to walk away with a book and a Jenga game and a gift card to a local grocery store purveyor of fine foods, like perhaps Walmart, I'm not sure. Anyways, Mike Manier is going to help me here, and we are going to do a thing. So I'm pulling out 10, and the names from our virtual families are in here as well. So Mike, let's pick one.
Okay. So, guardian first name, is it Zora? Zara? Zora? Virtual. Oh, virtual. My apologies. So, Zora Sadat. So, congratulations to you. Just going to keep those aside. All right. Here we go. Drum roll, please, but I can't drum and pick these things out at the same time, so just imagine one. Thank you very much for that. All right. The next one we have here is Arushi Thakur. All right, congratulations. And actually, I'm going to direct you right there to the prize. All right, our next winner. Drum roll, please. Awesome. You guys are getting better at it every time. Okay. Let's see. Ujwal. I hope I pronounced that. Ujwal. Congratulations. Just kidding. I think it's Catherine Schreiber. Catherine Schreiber. Virtual. Congratulations, Catherine, if you can hear us. There you go. Okay. This one right here. Anne Marie Peckham. Come on. Congratulations, Anne Marie. Okay, next up. Okay. Krish Wantry. Krish Wanty? Okay, congratulations.
Let's just say this is part of an awesome date night. Those on the inside will know what I mean.
Okay, next up. Okay, Funmi? Funmi? Virtual? Virtual. Congratulations, Funmi. Okay. This is more about my eyesight when I'm doing this, but Sieda. All right, did I pronounce it? Awesome. Okay. Congratulations to you. Congratulations. Okay, a couple more. Okay, Shesta. Yeah, congratulations to you. All right. And the last one. Nicely done. And our final one right here. Oh boy. You may have to read that because I can't see it. Ashi? Okay. Congratulations to you. Aris McLaughlin. Yes, there we go. Good, right on. Thank you. Congratulations. Okay, and the rest are virtual. Okay, so really, honestly, our last parting comment is thank you for coming out. It's awesome to see you here. Yes? Sorry, one more thing.
In case you noticed, there was lots of food for dinner, so there's lots of food left over. So you'll notice in the back table, there's a series of packaged food, and it's labeled what's in it, vegetarian, some fruit. So please take something as you go out. Any of the kids in the room, parents, I'm sorry, grab a cookie on your way out. Have a great night. Drive safe.